Hey everybody, welcome again to Challenged Athletes Live. Our next guest, seriously, one of our favorite people on the planet, Mr. Mike Coots. Mike, how the heck are you doing, bud?
Aloha, Bob. Pleasure to be here.
Hey, so first of all, when we talk quarantine, it's one thing to be here on the mainland, but you guys are isolated. Nobody can go there. Nobody can leave the island. Talk a little bit about how tough that's been.
Yeah, it's been a bit surreal. Mid-March, our governor instituted a 2-week mandatory quarantine for everybody coming into the islands, that they would have to basically stay home for 2 weeks before they can get out and do anything. And our tourism shut down overnight. Never in my lifetime seen it like that. And we're fortunate. Our mayor on island, I live on the island of Kauai, and our mayor, Derek Kawakami, he's a surfer. And basically everything, you weren't allowed to get in your car unless you were going to the hospital to get groceries. Or to do exercise. And one of the exercises he said we could do was go surfing. Probably because he's a surfer. So it was basically, if you showed up at the beach, you've got to get in the water or be running the beach. And because there's nothing really else to do besides sit at home or go surfing, what are we going to do? Go surfing. Yeah. So the beaches had more surfers than I've ever seen. We were fortunate to have a really good run of swell late March and April. And now we're kind of coming into our summer season. But I feel guilty saying this, but I've probably done more surfing in my life in the last 3 or 4 months than I ever have.
And as a kid who grew up surfing on Kauai, when we're talking October 28th, 1997, you're 18 years old.
Yep.
And that morning, when you got to the beach, I read somewhere like there was actually a smell that was unique, right? Something you really hadn't smelled much before.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I remember that day, mostly the smell. It's like there was something in the air when we opened our car doors on the sand, about 7:30 or so in the morning. The waves are going off though. But I should have, at that point, taken that as a cue of maybe not going in the water. But you know, when you're a kid and the waves are firing, nothing can stop you, and paddled out and became an amputee 15, 20 minutes later.
So you're paddling out and you're with another guy, and the two of you are one of you is going to go for the wave.
Yeah,
right.
I don't know about the mainland, but in here in Hawaii, we don't like to share waves. And I saw the wave coming, and I made like an initial motion, like this is my wave, and I remember my fingertips literally brushing through the surface of the water, and a large tiger shark came up from underneath me. I didn't see it from afar. There was no fin, no dorsal on the surface. It was a complete blindsided attack, and grabbed my legs and started ragdolling me back and forth, and took my right hand, tried to get my legs out of its mouth. That didn't work. My left hand, I started punching it a few times in the head, and that worked, and went back underwater, got back on my board. I looked at the surfer next to me, and he was as white as a ghost, and I yelled, "Shark, go in." That's all I could kind of think to do. And I didn't know that the shark had taken my leg off. I looked at my index finger, and I could see blood and guts, and I started paddling in, and he took off to the beach, didn't say a word, and I'm paddling behind him, and I feel my right leg like do this spasm. And you know, when you're paddling, you don't see what's behind you. You're in a prone position. And I thought, well, that's the shark finishing me off. And I looked over my shoulder, expecting to see a mouthful of teeth. And it was my leg severed off perfectly. Blood squirting out the middle, real gory and gross. And fortunately, a little wave came. I rode it right up to the sand. My friend Kyle ran to my aid, quick thinking, took my leash, made a tourniquet. They threw me in the bed of a pickup truck, and we hauled butt to the ER. Got there maybe 15 minutes later, and I spent about a week or so in the hospital, and almost a month bedridden, kind of waiting for the stitches and staples to kind of heal, everything to heal up. And the doctor said I could get back in the water, and I was right back in the water.
What was interesting to me is, one, they throw you in the back of a pickup truck, right?
Yep.
With there's no lift gate at the back.
Yeah.
Basically, you're by yourself in the back of the truck, bleeding on the highway.
Yeah, it was some surfboards next to me, and I remember distinctly, like, the surfboards were wrapped in this like cloth-like material, woven fabric, and I didn't want to look at my injury, so I just kept playing with the material with my fingers, like rubbing it. And I got really hot, really cold, really hot. We were passing cars, and it must have been it was probably 7:30 or so in the morning, and kids were going to school. You know how you can sort of like I guess determine the extent of your injury by the reaction of others. Well, I was looking at the people that we were passing with the tailgate down and blood rushing out the back with no leg, and looking at the mom and the kid in the front seat. I knew that I was on life's edge for sure.
So you know your leg is gone.
Yeah.
And the next morning you wake up and there's mom, dad, doctors, and the doctor's basically saying to your folks, do you want to tell them or should I tell them?
Yeah.
And what are you thinking at that point?
Yeah, I remember it was a kind of this lucid, like opening my eyes, and it was a real somber moment. And I almost thought like they're gonna give me bad news, like I was gonna die, like saying my goodbyes. And the
Yeah.
doctor looked at my mom looked at the doctor. My mom's like, I'll tell him, you know, Mike, you lost your leg. And I was like, yeah, I know, I saw it come off. And as soon as I said that, they're like, he's a, you know, he's it was like all cheers and hugs. And yeah.
You're like, is that it?
Is that it? Is that all the news you guys got for me? I saw it come off. Yeah.
So you had another shark survivor reach out to you and say, hey, we need to protect the sharks.
Yep.
And I'm guessing your first reaction was like, protect him. This guy just took my leg.
Yeah.
What turned it around from you going, sharks we got to worry about these guys, to we need to protect them?
Yeah, it was for the first couple of years after the attack. I was real curious what that smell was. Like, was it maybe a tide? Was it the moon? I read a lot of shark attack files, and a lot of shark attack books, would go to the library often. And I knew a lot about what sharks were doing to humans. I had no idea what humans were doing to sharks. And it was when Debbie, she got attacked in Florida, called me and was like, do you want to get into shark conservation? And that was a word I'd never heard before, shark conservation. And she's like, don't worry, watch on YouTube. There's a documentary by the late Rob Stewart. It's called Shark Water. Yeah. That night I watched it, absolutely blown away. Incredible documentary. And there was a number that came on the screen about halfway through of how many sharks a year killed for their fins, for shark fin soup. And the number at the time was 70 million sharks. And I thought it was an error. And I rewound the YouTube video. Sure enough, 70 million sharks. And I felt compelled in my unique situation. I love the ocean. The ocean has given me so much that I guess in my situation, do something positive. And we had a bill going through the US Congress at the time, protecting sharks. I flew to Washington, spoke to senators. We had a shark bill here in Hawaii. I was able to champion for sharks and get that bill passed. Been fortunate to speak to the United Nations in New York City on shark sanctuaries. And there was just a lot of legislature going through the time, and it was just, the timing was really good. And ever since then, I've been fortunate to learn more about sharks, hang with some brilliant shark biologists, shark photographers, go on a lot of shark diving trips. And the more I learn, the more I love them. They're amazing creatures, and we definitely need them in our oceans.
What's fascinating is, I think you were like a lot of us, when you looked into a shark's eyes, like even in video and stuff, they just look, you think Jaws, and you think that they're just a killing machine. But now that you've spent time underwater with sharks, you actually can, when you look them in the eye, you get a sense that there's empathy there. They're more than you thought they were.
Yeah, no, Hollywood is a really good job at being Hollywood. You watch a film that Hollywood makes on sharks, those eyes are black. There's no life, there's no soul, there's no process behind it. And when you're underwater, that was really, I guess, the first time I was underwater with sharks. What stood out to me the most was the eyes and how much life, brightness. A great white shark eye is not black. It's the most beautiful blue you'll ever see. And you look into their eyes and you can see, I don't know, you can see there's a lot more going on than Hollywood will tell us.
So one of the things I read, it's somebody was telling you they felt bad for you because you had lost your leg, and your quote was, "It's the best thing that ever happened to me." Why do you say that?
Just the life experiences that have come out of it, the places I've been able to go, the people I've met, has given me incredible purpose. If you were to ask me if I'd paddle back out that morning knowing I'd be an amputee, absolutely. And I won't
really,
and it was trying the first couple of years. I had really crummy prosthetics. A lot of my ankles were breaking. I didn't have health insurance. And I'd get a lot of blisters because I didn't have the best fits, and I'd miss a lot of school because I would be like, blisters would be healing, and it was challenging. And I'm fortunate to like have good parents that my dad would weld my feet back together and duct tape and fiberglass, and had a good little team behind me. But it all in all, I wouldn't change it for a thing. Absolutely not.
What's fascinating is one of your friends is Bethany Hamilton.
Yep.
Right. And I think you were photographing her as a surfer before she lost her arm. And the fact that you two guys both lost limbs to sharks is pretty ironic.
Yeah, she's like a little sister to me. I've known her since she was a wee high. And I distinctly remember that day she got attacked, and just how traumatic that was. And we were just so worried for her, and was at her bedside the next day when she came to, and we were just chatting about how I'm positive she's going to return to surfing. I thought she was going to be a toe-in surfer. I was trying to get the idea around how to paddle with one arm, and I was like, well, we got jet skis and we'll tow you in. And boy, was I wrong. She can paddle in on her own anytime she wants on the biggest waves thrown at her. She's pretty incredible.
When you first got into adaptive surfing, and there's been so much growth in that area for the last number of years. Now there's world championships. We're going to get into I think going to get into the Paralympics, hopefully by 2028.
Yep.
What has adaptive surfing done for you?
Oh man, adaptive surfing for me it's been about, I guess, thinking outside the box. It's been about trying to figure out when I first started, there was really you could do a Google image search on adaptive surfing, nothing would come up. You could just do a regular Google search. There was nothing to turn to. So it kind of felt like, in a way, we were innovative and sort of at the brink. My goal was to find a Kelly Slater surfing foot. And I used to buy used feet on eBay. My friend would come over and would cut them all up. And it was these rubber joints. And I really learned early on that the material that you surf with, like carbon fiber, is an absolute godsend for adaptive surfing. The way it's able to hold that energy and return it to the surfboard and make that surfboard, put it on a rail. And once you have that board on a rail, you're able to get speed and all your maneuvers happen. And without that, that's not possible. And I think that was my biggest obstacle early on, was just having these crummy rubber ankles. And it was just, once I got a carbon foot, there was no turning back.
The cool thing is, and I know you've been out here, I think you're one of our captains for the Switchfoot Broam, which usually is in July or late June. And this year, Switchfoot always does a concert, and it's a fundraiser for CAF. This year, obviously, we can't have the competition, but Switchfoot is still doing that concert, and that's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, I'm definitely have to tune in. I love Switchfoot. Those guys are rad. It's
$10.99. It's Saturday, June 27th, the Switchfoot Broam concert, and people can go to broam.org, switchfoot.com. All new music, and people can live stream. It's 5 p.m. Pacific time.
5 p.m. I got my calendar right here. Wow,
yes.
What day is that?
Saturday, June 27th.
I will be there virtually online.
I love it. And so what was it about that event? You'd been to that event, right? And that's pretty special.
A few times. I would say it's a combination of the huge crowds and the kids there. For those kids, it must feel like when they're in the water, and we've got a little mini competition for them, and we're help coaching them, and you try to talk to me at the end of the day, I can't talk to you. I've lost my voice. I've been screaming and whistling all day. It's so much fun. But to those kids, it must feel like they're in a world championship surfing event. To look at the beach and see everybody got their back, screaming, yelling, go this. And then to go and have, we always score the funnest little waves. And then for them to go up on stage in front of these huge crowds. And I think we're creating memories that those kids are going to remember for the rest of their lives. And when they get challenging times, they leave and they go back to their home state or to wherever they are in the country or in the world for that matter. And they've got a bit of a challenge. I think they're going to look back and remember all those people have their back. All those people are cheering them on, and really they've got no challenge that they can't overcome.
So as a professional photographer, coolest photo shoot?
Ooh, good question. Obviously underwater when I'm diving with sharks, that's really fun. I got hired by the In-Flight magazine here in Hawaii to shoot this, it's a duck. It's a kind of an elusive duck. It's called the Koloa duck. And it took me a good few weeks of learning how ducks behave. It was just something so out of my, and that was really fun. I just remember shooting this duck, and I'd have a big telephoto and trying to get it in flight and finding what times it would be active because it was really elusive. That was really fun. It was just so different than anything I've ever done.
The first time you got in with sharks to shoot, how hard was that for you?
I was honestly, I had a GoPro and I was just in such visual. It was about 8 years ago off of Mexico, Guadalupe Island. It's about a couple hundred miles off the coast, and there's the biggest great whites you'll ever see there. And I was just so enamored with literally dinosaurs floating around me. I think photography got pushed to the side. I was and since then I've realized how challenging sharks are to be to photograph. A great white swims so fast that it's hard to get composition, autofocus, let alone everything else going when they're swimming Mach 5. So that's a bit of a challenge, and I do enjoy that challenge.
Love it. Okay, a little rapid fire. Best CAF memory.
Ooh, that would probably be the very first junior SAO event. Just seeing these kids with their prosthetics, their setups, the parents cheering on. I just remember wow, if there was something like this when I became an amputee, how life-changing that would be. And I was in tears at the end of the day.
What is your go-to comfort food?
I would say mac and cheese.
There you go. What do you think's what's made you successful?
I'd say a combination of being surrounded by good family, good friends. I've been fortunate in a lot of situations, and I'm a firm believer luck favors the prepared. That what you do to kind of double, like in maybe shark photography, double check everything, do research. If you're going to go and shoot a photo of somebody, find a little bit about their background, to just kind of be informed and educate yourself and just keep trucking on.
Go-to technology.
Carbon fiber.
The best ever, right?
Yeah.
It's like the best invention of all time.
Ever.
There's no question.
Yeah.
Favorite book or podcast?
Favorite book, Stillness is the Key. I got given it to by one of the guys at Lululemon. It's just about slowing yourself down. There's so much noise in our lives, whether it's the news, social media, and it just kind of goes through these historical moments in the history of the world, where Churchill to all these different leaders, and critical moments when they just removed everything and they just took a deep breath, and sort of the trajectory of the course of the world history are kind of these key defining moments by just stillness. And it's a pretty good book.
What's next for you? Athletically, I've seen some video of you running, and we talking a little triathlon stuff in the future. What are you thinking?
I've been running every day. I swim a mile and I run every day. There's a great hill run behind my house. I know there's going to be a lot more adaptive surfing events, and I've been trying to really kind of fine tune my prosthetic surfing, and I don't know. Yeah, just a lot of running and a lot of surfing and a lot of swimming.
So for our, what's tough for a lot of our challenged athletes, like you're sheltered in place in Kauai, which is great. For a lot of our folks who've been, they're quad rugby players or they're wheelchair basketball players, they can't just go out and surf, right? Their sport, which is sort of helps identify who they are, is gone for the moment. What's your message for those guys to try to keep them together?
Man, I can imagine how challenging that would be. My message to that would be is just think of the day is going to come where how amazing that'll feel when you can do your sport. Like, and just look forward to that day, and I guess prepare yourself. And if you can't physically, mentally, because that day will happen, and it's going to be the best feeling ever.
Mike, always a pleasure to catch up with you, my man. And thank you for everything you bring to CAAF. Always so much fun to chat with you.
Absolute honor, Bob. Thank you.
Mike Coots has been our guest, everybody. This is Challenged Athletes Live. Check us out next time. See ya.